want to call the meeting to order of the CRB and the Historical Preservation Board. Please silence your cell phones. If you are going to speak, you will have 3 minutes. We may not answer you from up here. But that doesn't mean we're not listening. That just means that we're getting the information in. I may ask staff to answer your questions afterwards. Okay? All right. Roll call, please.
Chair Campenny,
Here.
Board Member Brickbill,
Here.
Board Member Hawkins,
Here.
Board Member McChrystal,
Here.
Board Member Moser, here, and Board Member Noble.
Here.
Okay. Let's have the swearing in. Are you going to do that, Mr. Baggett?
Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, City Attorney Lee Baggett. And Madam Clerk, it's Board Member Hawkins is the only one that needs to be sworn in? Okay.
Yes, City Attorney.
Board Member Hawkins, would you please stand, raise your right hand? And the City Clerk might have given you the oath, so you might, it'd be easier than trying to listen to me and repeat it, but you can follow along. I'll say some words and then you repeat it, okay? I state your name.
I, Aaron Hawkins,
Am qualified under the Constitution, laws of Florida,
am qualified under the Constitution, laws of Florida,
and the Code of Ordinances for the City of Stuart, Florida,
and the Code of Ordinances for the City of Stuart, Florida,
to serve as a member of the Community Redevelopment Board,
to serve as a member of the Community Redevelopment Board,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties
of an advisory board member on which I am about to enter, so help me God.
of an advisory board member on which I am about to enter, so help me God.
Thank you. Be seated.
Congratulations, Aaron. I am sure the clerks have given you all the instructions. Okay. All right. We need to select a vice chair. Since our vice chair stepped down, I'll take nominations.
I'd like to nominate Mark Breckbill.
A second.
Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, Mark, you are now the vice chair. Move on over, buddy.
I told you, it's getting dangerous. I'm getting closer to you.
No, that's all right. We're gonna let everybody guess.
Want to recognize you?
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
See how fast you come up in this world? Okay. We also needed to nominate a board member for the Community Redevelopment Agency since our past vice chair was on that, so I'll take nominations for that. Okay, so
I'd like to nominate Mark Breckbill.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Mark, you accept that nomination? Because that requires more work.
Yeah, I know. But the pay's good, so I don't mind.
All right. Is there any other nominations from the board? Seeing none, congratulations, Mark. You get to go to one more meeting a month.
Could we get an all in favor for that? I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
An all in favor?
You need an all in favor? Well, only one, but okay. Can I get an all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Can I get approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second? Second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Comments from the public on non-agenda items. If you just want to address this to say how lovely we all look or anything like that, please. Seeing none. Okay, comments by board members on non-agenda items. Does any of my board members have something to say? Seeing none. Okay, we're going to adjourn this meeting.
Recess.
We're going to recess this meeting, and we're going to call the Historic Preservation Board to order. Okay? And that is for the Women's Club of Stewart Clubhouse Historic Designation Petition for Listing Stewart Historical Registry. It's resolution number 04-2024 CRB PB, a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Board, Stewart Historic Preservation Board of the City of Stewart, Florida, approving the request for certificate of designation of the Women's Club of Stewart Clubhouse for listing on Stewart Historic Register, providing an effective date, providing for conditions of approval, and for other purposes. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so I'm going to ask, have a little cheat sheet that we have to follow for this. Do the board members have any ex parte communications to disclose? That means, have you spoken about this item to anyone, the applicant, staff, or anyone else? I need affirmative. Frank, have you?
No, sir.
No.
No. I have not, and I enter this with an open mind.
We weren't going to go that far.
Come
And
on.
Aaron?
No.
And I haven't either, okay? All right. Can all those giving testimony please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in by the clerk? Okay. Do you want to swear them in, my clerk?
Give me one moment here.
Okay.
We're ready for that, but here we go. With those giving testimony, please raise your right hand, which you are. So let the record reflect there are 3 people being sworn. If you could just answer me at the end, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Let the record reflect that 3 people testified affirmatively.
Okay. And now staff report. Are you going to do this?
Yes, I'll do a
Okay.
brief introduction. Panal Gandhi Savda, CRA Director for the record. This is very exciting for the Women's Club of Stewart. They have submitted a petition to designate their clubhouse on the local register listing for the city of Stewart. Just a brief history, this property is located at 729 Southeast Ocean Boulevard. And so far, we've had 2 other properties listed on the local register listing, which is the Stewart Feed Store and Heritage Museum, and the Hull Lane House, which serves as the law firm for John Edgar Sherrard on 5th Street. Those are the only 2 properties listed on our local register, and this will be the 3rd one, so it's very exciting. We do have Cecilia Lewis, who is the president of the Women's Club of Stewart, and other members, as you can see here, from the club here to support the designation of the clubhouse. We also want to thank Julie Priest. She is the local historian. She did a significant amount of research to prepare the petition package, detailing the history of the clubhouse and the club itself, the property and the building architecture. So at this time, I would like to invite Julie Priest to give a presentation on all the research and findings that makes this project and property significant to the Stewart's history. The whole package, the research was submitted in your agenda package, so if you want to follow along, she'll refer to the pages that she'll describe as part of her presentation.
Thank you, Panal. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board. I am Julie Priest. I am a historical research volunteer with emphasis on the word volunteer. As a matter of fact, I already gave fair warning to Panal. This may be my last presentation on historic preservation. For a while, I'm going to be focusing on personal projects for the next chapter of my life. I refer you to page number 1 at the start that contains the contents. You have received letters of support, the property deed, data and aerials, the petition itself, photographs. The name of the architect is Robert George Jahelka, quite distinguished. Newspaper articles only for certain years. There are tons of newspaper articles on what this group has accomplished since 1913. And the chronology, which is probably one of the easiest documents to look at to see how things have progressed since 1913. Now I refer you to page 30, if you don't mind, Pinal. To the board, do you all have, I guess everybody's looking at the screen, so you don't have a computer. Let me get to page 30.
Maybe someday, Julie, maybe someday.
I hope so. Okay. This is actually on page 30, the start of the petition. Prior to that, you saw the letters of support, the deeds, the aerials, and things showing you the actual on-site building, where it's located within the city of Stuart and so forth, which I'm sure you all took a look at. I have prepared this petition so that the next person that will do this can actually take this information almost as it is written and present it to the National Register of Historic Places to get designated by the National Register. I'm hoping that someone else will fill my shoes and move forward with that. So this is a mid-century modern structure, and Pinal probably has a photograph, but we'll get into the photographs later. The walls are stucco, concrete block and steel. The roof is a standing seam metal roof. And of course, there are other items that are of importance. It's reclaimed brick. It has wrought iron columns at the front on the porch. It has another porch to the rear, and they have replaced the windows and the doors. However, for the most part, the shell of the building is original, but the things that you would assume had deteriorated and needed to be replaced were replaced. The windows, the doors on the exterior, the interior doors are all original. And so that's pretty much the only change to the building. The building was never moved. It was never added onto. It's still on its original footprint. The architect, as I said, is Robert George Jahelka, who is very distinguished in Broward County, and that information of what some of the buildings that he designed are in this report. Also, a former city commissioner was the contractor, Mr. John L. Taylor, which I found to be quite interesting. That's the first time in my doing a research for historical preservation that a city commissioner was the contractor. So I'm going to scroll down. You have the description. It is a 3,854 square foot building, which that number came from the property appraiser's office. And all of the details are on the following pages. And let me just get to where there were some modifications, please, if you give me a second. Pinal, if you would go to page 32. The modifications to the interior. Those are very important features that the National Register of Historic Places is always looking at. As I told you, everything else pretty much for the exterior is as original. But what has been changed? In 1971, they put in air conditioning, naturally. They did a rejuvenation of the interior of the building. They did a brand-new kitchen, and they did some other features on the inside where they had a stage at the front of the primary hall. I hope some of you have already been in this building in the past. They changed the ceiling out in the primary hall, and they changed the vanities in the restroom. In the restrooms, believe it or not, the wall tile is still original. The floor tile is not. But the interesting part about this building, and when you walk into it, you immediately notice the terrazzo floors. Those of you who grew up in Florida are familiar with terrazzo floors. There were people of significance, and I've gone to page 33, Pinal, that were in the group that started it. But Pinal, I'm going to move you, if you don't mind, and I'm going to enlarge it on my screen. Page 34 that shows a scan of the original document that we were able to find from 1950, well, no, this would be 1913. The building itself, and I failed to tell you, was constructed in 1958. However, this group was started in 1913, so we have to give credit to the people of significance. If you look at the list, you will see some important names. Some of you will recognize. I'm just going to quickly go through. Harry Dyer, the Dyer building on the corner. Those of you who are always asking, what's going to happen to that building? Frazier, Margaret Frazier, she donated Kiwanis Park. Kiwanis, that entire subdivision was a project that she was involved with. Ms. Haney is on this. Everyone knows Ms. Haney. We have Harbrecht, she was very active. John's, the funeral home. We have Kruger, you recognize that name. We have Kitching. Let me move on to the second column. You have Matthews. Sam Matthews built a lot of buildings here, original historic buildings. We have Edward Mapp Road in Palm City. We have the McPhersons. Let me move on. We have Pomeroy. You recognize the street name. I believe he was sheriff at one point. We have George Parks. We have the Stewart Feed Store. That was George Parks' building. We have Riku from Palm City. And we have Toussaint, which is from my neck of the woods in Rio, as a matter of fact. And those are the names that you might recognize. Now I'm going to scroll down further. And if you think of any questions, please do not hesitate to interrupt me. This group has accomplished many events. Their biggest contribution to this town was the creation of the first library, which I believe was started in, and I'm sorry I have the details here for you, but I don't have the exact date in front of me. Probably started around 1916, as I recall. Penal, if you would go to page 39. On page 39, you see the list of some of the buildings that were designed by this famous architect from Broward County, whom you probably never heard of, Mr. George Robert Jahelka. Please notice that I highlighted Sewell's Point Town Hall. So he designed that after he designed the building that we're here today for designation. Underneath that, you'll see the Las Olas Hospital. You will see the First Presbyterian Church in Deerfield Beach. You will see Church by the Sea on Mayan Drive in Deerfield Beach. The way he was hired to do the design for this building was that he designed the Deerfield Beach Women's Club the year prior, in 1956, to designing the clubhouse. So it must have been a network situation where one person told another, and they hired Mr. Jahelka. Let me move on. We have all the items that you all need to look at. Integrity of location, integrity of the setting. I'm going to speak over the train. Integrity of design, we've accomplished all of those. Integrity of materials and workmanship, I'm just moving through, and integrity of association. Now, if you could go to the photographs, starting with page 44, Penal. This is always best. It's certainly a lot more interesting for you to look at a photograph. This is obviously not an original sign, but this gives you an idea of what you can see from the street, because from the street, quite frankly, you can't see much of the building because they've done such a gorgeous job of honoring Dr. Menninger's garden, and it's very lush with vegetation. So that's what you see from the street. The next picture, if you go to the next page, I'm going to go page by page, Penal, is one of the pictures that we were able to get of the original construction. You notice that the red tile roof is not on there yet. They just have the tar paper on there, 1958. And if you go to the building right there, the second photograph on there, please take a good look at the front doors, which are the multiple lights on there, both in the doors and the surround, and take a look at the awning windows, which are no longer awning windows. They're single hung windows, both on two sides. And unfortunately, we have no original photograph of the other two sides of the building, but from all indications, those weren't changed either. Please also take a look at the lettering. My review indicates that the lettering is original. Those letters, Women's Club, and what's underneath are originally made out of wood. If you stand in front of them, as I did, they're still there. Same original lettering, which is quite interesting. The landscape has changed, and the columns just have been painted from white to black. And the porch has been painted a couple times, which we will see. It is now on the grayish tone. All of the reclaimed brick is still the same. The planters are still the same. The only difference here is they didn't have money to put the red tile roof when they built it. They raised the money in the first year, and they got the red tile roof put on, which you and I have never seen. And then the red tile roof switched over to shingles, and now in the recent years, it's now the standing seam roof. I believe it's standing seam, but it's definitely metal. It might be 5V crimp, but Again, all of that is indicated here in the report. So just move through the photographs. Panal, if you'll go to number 48, they can get a closer look at the lettering, page 48. Thank you. You see the lettering there, still exactly the same. Those are awning windows. Of course, they've been changed out. And we'll just keep moving through the photographs. I'll tell you which photograph to go to next. Just keep scrolling down, Panal. Oh, if you'll go to photograph on page 50, please notice that the club decided to paint the porch red. And at that time, the columns, the wrought iron columns were also painted black. So those were probably the first changes that took place. And I was lucky to get those photographs. I believe those were from the 90s, 1996. So we're moving, and we're moving forward. And then if you'll move to photograph on page 51. Yes, please notice that the doors appear not to have any lights in them. It's very hard to tell, but they appear to be solid doors. They kept the lights in the surround, but they changed out the doors. So that's another change that took place. But these are minimal changes. Now, in the back of the building, which is on page 52, the original French doors that are still French doors but have been replaced, the original French doors had jalousie glass in them. Those of you, again, who grew up in Florida are familiar with jalousie glass. Also, the transoms, if you look closely, which you'd have to blow it up, there are jalousies in the transoms above. This was all done naturally for ventilation because they had no air conditioning. So that was changed out. But all in all, the building remains as original except for those features. I can go in depth. You saw there were hundreds of pages in this report, and the ladies wish to speak with you. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. This building is certainly worthy of the designation. We invited Mr. Rick Gonzalez, who I believe is currently the chairman of the National Register Review Board in Tallahassee. Actually, his architectural firm is in Palm Beach. He came and visited, and he said that this building is worthy of nomination to the National Register. So I feel that's a pretty good source, so I'm hoping that the group will move forward. Thank you very much.
Julie?
Okay,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Frank, do you have any, Julie, do you want to just stay there in case there's any questions? So you don't have to keep jumping up. Frank, do you have any questions for Ms. Priest?
So it was built in 1958, remodeled in 1971. Kudos for keeping the terrazzo, and you have the original lettering.
1971
It's
is
called,
when they
it's
got the air
called,
conditioning.
it's called mid-century modern.
Yes.
And what do we mean by integrity of design?
That the building has not been altered, that it is,
Okay,
it is a
very good.
it is a good example of mid-century. If you go out to Palm Springs, their buildings will look similar to this. Most of them will not have, and I checked with Rick Gonzalez, most of them will not have gable roofs. They will have flat roofs on a slant. But this one does have a gable roof. Oh, I forgot to mention, this special features here of this building, it's got flying gables. I had never heard of those until I started doing the research for this building. The gable at the front of the building over the lettering of the Women's Club jets out to a point. The overhang jets out to a point, about 60 inches. Same thing occurs in the back that overlooks the parking lot. And then the kitchen section also has another flying gable. So 3 flying gables, very distinguishing features that you don't see everywhere.
You know why? Do you know
You have one
why?
at your house?
I think the flying gables is a legitimate term.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
They
yes.
occasionally go flying. More than occasionally. All right. Will I get more comments later?
You should ask all the questions you have of Ms. Priest. now.
Okay, thank you, I'm good.
Okay?
Nothing for me.
Anything?
Nothing.
Now,
Sorry. I just have a couple questions. One, the original Women's Club was built in, and was where the Azul Apartments is, right? Isn't that the original one? Right, okay. And I know that was, torn down ultimately as a result of,
The hurricane
Right.
destroyed it.
is there is there any intent on your part to put some plaque or information in in this building tying back to the other building that was there? Because it had some historical significance as well.
The text that you will be approving as a board to put on the marker talks about the original building being destroyed. It was actually the original library that the ladies had started back then. So it is mentioned in the text for the marker. If you want something more, then of course that's.
Well, the only reason I mention it is because, you know, we did those sailfish markers, right? And so I've got one of those sailfish markers, and on it, I ran out of space to be able to put anything about the women's club because it was across the street. We had to take that off, and I don't know if it got moved or not, but it would be nice to have, you know, something like that, I think, if that's something you guys can do. The other thing that I was wondering about is, what does it actually mean? I know this is a more specific designation than, you know, we've got a historic designation within Stewart that really just has to do with age. But what can they or can't they do with this building once this designation has been given?
They can do anything they want. We have
Okay.
no regulations. They can demolish the building even if they want.
Okay.
The same thing applies to anything that's on the National Register of Historic Places here in Martin County. So we do not have anything that hampers the property rights of the individual. What they need to do is come before you if they do want to make modifications, if they do want to demolish, and you can give them your opinion as to that. But that's the most you can do. There's no way of stopping the changes or destruction to a building,
Okay. All right.
regretfully. But up north, some neighborhoods, that those of you who are raised up north might know that they do have stronger reins on their historic buildings, but we do not have that here.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mark?
No, that's it.
Aaron, do you have any questions?
No, nothing for me.
Okay?
Gee, I just,
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought the ladies.
well, I just want to say, Julie, that this is a pretty interesting building in and of itself, and it's seen a lot of history. It's contributed
Absolutely.
a lot of history. It saw me in a fashion show there.
Oh, my gosh.
I was with Commissioner Clark. She ran out, but yes, we were at a fashion show together there.
I'd run out if I was in a fashion show with you too, so.
And, you know, there was other things. And I just want to say it's a really unique building all its own. And try getting about 10 6-year-olds dressed for a fashion show in the bathroom there. So anyways, I think it's a great thing, and I really, really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
is there any other questions for Ms. Priest?
Yes. Excuse me, one second.
Sure.
In the text, you also saw photographs of the mural that is on the south wall, created by Ms. Postel, an accomplished artist. They have protected that. And they also have some other individual paintings in their boardroom. And so that's an interior feature. When you're designating buildings, for the most part, this and also the National Register, they don't do so much with the interior. They're interested in that shell and the exterior. But the ladies have managed through all the years and all those thousands of feet that have walked on that terrazzo, which is amazing because the terrazzo looks gorgeous to me. It's in great shape. They have managed to protect the interior doors. They have made just one minimal modification to the interior where they added a pantry in the kitchen, but otherwise the footprint of the interior is still original. They have preserved everything. They've done a marvelous job for this community, not to mention the community service. That building was originally built because our rec center, which was serving our military at the time when it was built, was not able to take care of all of the events that were happening in this small community at the time. So they needed to build what they called another auditorium, and that's what they called this building in the early articles, another auditorium. So it has served this community tremendously, and there is no way I could list all of the events that were held there, including the fashion show. But when these ladies do go to the National Register, they may want to do that because all of that significance, community service makes a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, did you have another question for Ms. Priest?
Yeah, it's either for Julie or Pennell. What is the benefit? How does the Women's Club benefit from this designation by the
It's an
historic?
honor. It's the honor.
It's just an honor?
It's the-
There's nothing else that goes with it?
It's the honor. If they go to the, and actually even now, they could. If they want to upgrade something, they could go for a grant, for this special grants that they have in Tallahassee.
Right, only
Our division-
specifically if they have the designation. So having the
Having
designation
it gives-
opens up,
As you know, when you
opens up a
when you
bunch
fill
of
out
grants.
grant application, this box gets checked
You answered my
off.
question, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, they get city tax exemption for any of the
They
improvements
don't
that
pay
they
tax, I
make.
don't believe.
No,
You're
they shouldn't be.
nonprofit, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so, yeah, that doesn't apply then.
Right.
But
So
that's
there are
one of the
benefits.
benefit of the program is that you do get tax exempt.
Well, tax credits
Credit
too.
and
Tax
for any
credits.
of the improvements that you add to the
Right.
property.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Now, who else was sworn in? Okay, if you want to give another presentation, please.
My name is Cecilia Lewis. I'm the president of the Women's Club. And a couple of things I just wanted to point out, because it is true that we started in 1913. Our club started here in Stewart. It was a different building. However, the relationship between the Women's Club and Stewart goes back almost that far. Since the information that I found said that the city of Stewart was incorporated on May 14, 1914, in the Women's Club building. So I thought that was interesting. And also, I found out that the Women's Club joined the petition for a county division, and Martin County was formed in 1925. So there is a long and wonderful relationship between the Women's Club and the city. And as was pointed out before, it would be an honor to have the city designation so that then we can proceed for a national. So I would also like to thank people, if I could do that.
Please.
I'd like to thank our two previous presidents who are here, Joe Baxter and Sharon Mason, who started this whole process. And of course, with the document in front of you, Julie Priest has, as a volunteer, has done so much to get us into where we are right here with you. And I would like to thank her in front of everyone here, and would like to read that we'd like to give her an honorary membership to our club in appreciation for her time, effort, and dedication as a volunteer historian. So I'd like to give that to Julie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank all of you for your time.
Thank you.
Very much.
Is there any other questions for Pennell or the applicant? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, and it comes back to us, and we'll have public comment. I have no cards. Do you have anything?
I do not.
Does anyone want to make public comment?
I do have one question.
You have to fill out a card. Well, no, you can speak, and then you can fill out a card later.
Yes, I did notice that there is a City of Stewart historical tour pamphlet, and I just wanted to know how often that gets printed and if all goes
I'm
well.
going to say you should speak to Pennell afterwards,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's back to us for discussion then. I'll take any discussion, or I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Let's so move, Frank. I mean.
No, motion
Mark.
to approve the designation.
Motion to approve by Mark. Do I get a second?
No discussion?
We can have
We can
discussion, but
second.
let's second the motion now that it's on the floor for discussion. Speak into your mic, so she can record.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mark, we have a second by Andy, and we have discussion. Do you want it, what do you want to discuss?
When we compare this building to the two other previous historical designations in the city of Stewart, There's just no comparison. I'm wondering, is this historical designation, what is it about? I thought it was mostly about architecture and the way buildings look historic from the street. And the same building being used since, you know, I don't know, the feed store, when was that built? In the 20s or the 10s?
1913, I believe, and 1904.
So my point,
1901.
so this house, and you can put a title on it, mid-century modern. This building just resembles half the houses in my neighborhood, and there's nothing spectacular about it from a historical architecture point of view, in my point of view, because there are so many. If we designate this, then we open the floodgates for everybody. And as far as, and if it's going to be about, and no one's arguing the benefits to the and the accomplishments of the Women's Club for the community. But I'm wondering, let's say my house, which was built in 1957, let's just say some historical figure lived there for 20 years. Okay, check, I'm good. So this opens a door. I think it cheapens the other two as far as the designations. If we're going to start designating everything built after 1955 as historic, where's the meat on the bones as far as, you know, the real historical buildings in our city? So no, this doesn't check any of the boxes as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Now, could you go through why this is an historic building as far as what the regulation is and what?
Well, it does have to, we do have to look at the architecture of the building, but it's a voluntary program. So it's just because something is historic doesn't mean that we're going to designate it and give a designation of local historic register listing. The property owner has to come forward and has to submit a petition, and it's a voluntary program. So it's not something that the city would make somebody do and add on the local register listing.
So if we recommend it, then is there another, like, historical society that approves or denies their request? Is that how it works?
Right, so that's why they're coming before you to list this on the local register.
And as far as that organization, how much weight is put into historical architecture and the uniqueness of the historical architecture as compared to all the houses built in the 50s?
I would defer to.
Is there a lot of weight there, or
Julie,
no?
Because I can't really speak on the architecture.
For the record, City Attorney Lee Baggett. So in section 5.09.01.A.4, section of the Land Development Code, it gives the criteria, and it lists, looks like 6. I can sit here, I can read through them. I don't know
That'd be good.
if they were in the packet or not, but,
They were in the
Cliff?
package.
okay.
Cliff notes of the 6 be fine.
So I'll read, follow along. If you need me to stop and repeat, just let me know. Okay, so it says subsection A, criteria. And the board shall issue certificates of designation to designate historic sites, districts, places, buildings, structures, landscape features, archaeological sites, and other improvements or other physical features that, and then it lists the 6. One is are significant in the city of Stewart's history, comma, architecture, comma, archaeology, or culture, and possess an integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, or association. And then it's or, so each of these factors, it's not, it don't have to all be there, it's just one or more of these factors. Number 2, are associated with distinctive elements of the cultural, social, political, economic, scientific, prehistoric, and architectural history that have contributed to the pattern of history in the city of Stuart, South Florida, the nation, or, number 3, are associated with the lives of persons significant in the city of Stuart's, the state of Florida's, or the United States of America's past, or 4, embody the distinctive characteristic of a type, period, style, or method of construction or work of a master, or that possess high artistic value, or that represent a distinguishable entity whose components may lack individual distinction, or, number 5, have yielded or are likely to yield information in history or prehistory, or 6, are listed in the National Register of Historic Places.
Okay, thank you. So it checks enough boxes other than architecture. That's all I have.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
I just have a comment regarding the same thing. And I understand what you're getting at, Frank, a little bit, but, you know, in having gone back and looked at some of these things myself, the problem with Stewart is that, first of all, we don't have a set architecture sometimes. I mean, it's over a period of years, and sometimes any history of that has been eliminated already, just because it wasn't something that was strikingly significant from an architectural standpoint, but maybe had a historical significance or whatever. So it's the problem that I think we have in Stewart a little bit is that, you know, if you go up north, there's buildings that are, you know, 250 years old, and here, you know, we're 1914. So I think that's the one thing. And I think the other thing, too, is that I think that all we're doing is basically giving a designation that means that if somebody wants to tear that building down, we have an opportunity to have somebody save it if they want to.
Okay.
Right. When you go to the Federal Registry, that's a whole different scenario. But with our designation, basically all it really, in my opinion, all it is a second look, an ability to say, hey, wait, let's not tear this down and let's give somebody a chance to do something with it.
And I'm going to say, very similar to you, Mark, we're actually just recognizing the history of not so much the building, but of the Women's Club and what it has meant to the city of Stuart and to Martin County. If it in any way had stopped the Women's Club as the owner of the building from tearing it down or changing it, I would definitely vote against it. I would always vote against it. I come from a place where I've seen real danger done because you can't change anything. So property rights are very important to me. And I think it just means that we recognize that the Women's Club and this particular building, which is younger than me, is something that maybe we shouldn't preserve as a community, but if the Women's Club feels it's important, I think we should say to the Women's Club, I think it's important to me, because Commissioner Clark and I got dressed up in our fancy clothes and did a fashion show there. So that's the way I look at it. Is there any other comments?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what compels me is the entirety of the circumstance, Mark, that you touched on. I think it's the history, it's the architecture that you addressed. It's not one thing. And I think when you look at the entirety of the history of what this organization and this building has meant to the community, I think it kind of compels me that there is historical significance. And, yeah, I'm very much in favor of it.
Frank, you want to add something?
Just so, I know you're not supposed to assume anything, so now I can assume that there, in this National Registry, there are many houses that were built in the 50s in this registry, many buildings built in the 50s.
Depends on the area.
I believe there probably are. Julie, you want to add to that?
This is going to be a little bit shocking, but there are even buildings on the National Register
Built
that
in the
look like they're ready
70s.
to fall down. They look like shacks. They were originally probably African-American school buildings from the period of segregation. And so it's not all about architecture. It
Or
is-
age.
It's not just age, it's what does the structure, that site, that location represent? They frown on buildings that have been moved. They frown on buildings that have been rebuilt. As a matter of fact, I just worked on the 1934 Salerno Colored School. That was the name of it, down across the street from the Murray School that we have now, and it was declined. That was my project previous to this. It was declined by the National Register Review Committee because they said it had been almost totally reconstructed, which is not a lie. Martin County came in, and essentially, the only things that are original are the floor joists, and I'm trying to remember what else.
One wall, just one.
The three interior walls. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron was involved with Martin County Black Heritage Initiatives that looked at that. So, and they had actually moved that building because they considered it a portable, the school board at the time. So what I'm saying is, this has a lot of integrity, both in the social aspect of what's gone on with all the citizens, all those feet that have gone on that terrazzo floor, and all the meetings that were held there, all the names that I mentioned from the early page. Ms. Frazier is totally associated here with the city of Stewart. Sam Matthews. So we're not just talking architecture, we're not just talking the building, how it looks. Is it Art Deco or something that we kind of really like? And yes, there are homes probably in your neighborhood that still have their jalousie windows. I agree with you. But those owners can come before this group and say, I'd like to put it on the Stewart Historic Register. Then you can look at it and you can decide. With the understanding that when they sell that home, the next person's probably going to knock it down and put a two-story McMansion on there, which is what's happening a lot. So it's a matter of just registering the history of what occurred on that site and what was there.
Thank you, Julie. You know what, Frank, I'm going to call the vote.
Yeah.
Board Member or Vice Chair Breckbill?
Yes.
Board Member Hawkins?
Yes.
Chair Kempenny?
Yes.
Board Member McChrystal?
No.
Board Member Moser?
Yes.
And Board Member Noble?
Yes.
It passes 5-1. You are official. Thank you. Okay, moving on. If you ladies would like to leave before we call the other one, are you going to stay? Thank you. You're welcome.
If you could adjourn this, Chair Kempenny.
Oh, the Historic Preservation Board is adjourned, and I'm reconvening the CRB.
Tom, can I say something real quick? I want to say something to.
Oh, go ahead, quickly.
Hey, Julie. Julie? I wanted to just mention that before you got out, since this might be the last time you make a presentation like this, how much, I appreciate, and I know all others in the city appreciate all of the things you've done to make Stewart better, preserve its history, and all of the dedication that you've put in that. And I really think that's a great thing, and I'm glad that you're not going to leave completely, but I hate to see that you're not going to be spearheading some of these efforts anymore, but you've done a fantastic job, so I appreciate it.
I make myself available to help those that will and answer questions. Thank you very much for that acknowledgement. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is item 7, minor urban code conditional use, murals on buildings in the downtown public shopping center located at 728 Southwest Federal Highway. Resolution number 02-2024 CRB, a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Board of the City of Stewart, Florida, granting a minor conditional use approval for public artwork mural named Ecosystem in Stewart on a property located at 728 Southwest Federal Highway, as described within the attached legal description, granting approval to paint mural to the exterior walls of a building, providing an effective date, providing for conditions of approval, and for other purposes. Pennell.
Thank you. I'll just give a brief introduction of this item. We have an application for a mural on the downtown Publix buildings. Again, as you mentioned, the murals will be going on the exterior walls of the buildings, of the Publix building, and there are other buildings within that plaza. So they're proposing 3 different murals on 2 different buildings. The property address is 728 Southwest Federal Highway. As you can see here, there's a nice big blank wall on the Publix building that is clearly visible as you're driving north on Palm City Road. The applicant has requested to paint this mural that you see on the screen here. The artist, David Lee, is proposing to honor the Environmental Studies Center, which is, who's played a big role in our community and touched the lives of thousands of students over the last 50 years. And they're also proposing another 2 murals on the other buildings of the shopping center featuring manatees, turtles, and other sea life. And the Art Council did review and provide letter of support for the artist and recommended approval of the mural. When Nancy Terrell reviewed the mural, she did make a recommendation that the language, the text that was provided on the mural initially said celebrating 50 years of education. She said that would only be true during the year that it was painted, so she did recommend a change in language, which the artist incorporated as part of the revised rendering that was provided in your package. Additionally, typically the text is considered a wall sign, and they are supposed to submit a sign permit for that, so we did add a condition of approval in the resolution that they would have to obtain a permit or some sort of administrative variance to comply with the land development code for the signage part of the mural. And staff is recommending approval of resolution number 02-2024, approving the proposed mural with conditions attached to the resolution.
Okay. You want to give us your name and who you are? And
Steve Darby, I'm representing Brixmore, the property owner for the plaza. So
Okay.
I was just sitting here as a representative to see if you had any questions or need any additional information about it.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Frank?
Yes, sir. Are these hand-painted murals or are these plastic wraps?
I believe they're going to be hand-painted with the way that they were designating the artist for it. So that's the way I understand
They are
it.
They are
Okay, thank
hand-painted.
you.
It was in the packet,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Okay, any other questions for, seeing none, you can sit down. You don't have to
Okay.
stay. Does anyone,
What is the longevity projected when these things are painted before they have to be maintained, or is there maintenance involved in maintaining a painting once it's put up?
That, I do not have that answer. I'm sure they're going to use, quality exterior paints. So, I would assume you'd get at least 10 years out of them with, the weather and everything around here. I'm not sure what the repair would be if you'd, contact the artist to come back out 10 years from now to touch them up, or whether you would just repaint over top of them, or.
I'm going to get an answer to that question right now. We have an artist here. You want to just come up and just, because you have to speak in the microphone. As an artist who will be later asking,
Hi, my name is Christopher Vitale. I'm the artist who painted the House of Refuge mural on Osceola Street. So basically, there's a couple of different ways that you can protect an exterior mural. A lot of people use like a clear coating that'll go over the mural after it's painted. Some of them will have like a UV protection to help filter out some of the sun rays and help protect the mural over time. There's other types of treatments that would restore the original color of the paint. I've never used those myself, so I don't know how well they work, but I've heard of people using those. You kind of spray it onto the mural, and it helps to kind of bring back the original vibrance from when it was first painted. But usually these kind of clear coatings are pretty effective. And then the other treatment, I guess, that people sometimes do is just bring the artist back to kind of touch up, which I've done on my mural. So yeah, there's a couple of different options, but it's not terribly difficult to
Thank you.
maintain.
thank you. Okay, so I'll take a motion, I'll take discussion, I'll do whatever the board pleases.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
With staff conditions?
I want to discuss that, but yes, with staff conditions.
Okay, can I get a second? Second. Second by Andy. Okay. We are now open for discussions. Let me just say, before I forget, earlier today, former Mayor and Commissioner Mary Hutchinson called me. She is on the board of the center, and she said she couldn't make it, but she wanted me to tell the board that she was very much in favor of the mural. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thanks. My only question is for staff, and it is why we are having to charge a permit fee for a sign that's obviously associated with this mural approval. I mean, if we approve the mural, shouldn't that include the sign that's necessary to explain it at not an additional approval, not an additional cost? I mean, it seems to add another step to the mural approval process that I'm not sure why we really
I
need it.
think we're going to get the big shot to answer
Okay,
that
good.
question.
Well, first, because the.
Mike Mortel,
Mike
city
Mortel,
manager.
city manager, responding to the question, but the answer is simply because the code requires it. The commission could change the codes, but if the city were to approve, let's say, the apartment complex across the street known as Azul, that doesn't mean that Azul doesn't have to pay impact fees, or that Azul doesn't have to pay for a permit fee to put up a sign. And when the sign gets constructed next to the mural, whether it's made out of brass or whether it's lit from the ground or whether it isn't, still has to go through the review process, take staff time to review and be inspected, because you still have to go out and it has to be CO'd and closed out and maintained and monitored. And as a result, all that stuff adds up to staff time. And I agree that it seems counterintuitive, but the truth is, all that we're approving here is the particular image, and then the city's agreeing, or the CRA is agreeing to pay for it. But right now, our code prevents the painting of graffiti on a wall. Someone might say the graffiti is a mural. And it also prevents the painting of murals without a permit that gets to reviewed, because again, and again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there are some people that think art is art and some people that think some pictures aren't art. And as a result, we've found a reasonable way to evaluate that by having a board look at the actual image that's going to be painted, and then having the building officials inspect and make sure that the proper paints and things that were used are not dripping lead paint into the soil, and that the sign is not installed improperly, et cetera. But it's just simply the permit process.
Thank you, Mike. Did you want to say anything else?
No, that was good.
That was it? Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, just that, I see some other murals around town that are fading. Maybe if the owners knew, so they're obviously investing in this painting, those clear sealers, the trick, and the artist would agree, the trick is to say, okay, I'm gonna do this in 2.5, 3 years before the degradation starts. Because once the paint starts to chalk, then you got a pressure claim before you can put the sealer on. So the whole game is to stay ahead of that. And again, it's not that big of a deal if you stay ahead of it. And I see some murals around town where that was not done. That's all.
You know, I'm going to suggest that perhaps you may want to come back to the board, not for this, of course, but maybe we want to relook at what we want to do with a mural and how we want to protect it and make it all part of, and recommend that language go into.
We do have language in the agreement that they have to maintain it for 5 years, but we don't have details on how they need to maintain it. If we go out there and we see that the paint has been chipped or something, we can obviously, based on agreement, we can ask them to repaint it or.
Okay, if the board feels that's good enough, then that's fine with me. Okay, is there anything else?
I would agree with you, Tom, though. I think we should look at that because, you know, these things are great. I love what people are doing with them, but, you know, down the road 10 years, you know, they could be an eyesore if we don't, you know, require certain things. And I know we require maintenance for 5 years, but.
That's the point. And we're just a little preventive.
Yeah.
They look new forever. That's
So
all.
why don't you, at some point, bring back to us perhaps putting something
Some
else in the code to preserve
preventative
it.
method? to-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Madam Clerk, do you want to call the roll?
Board Member Hawkins?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brackbill?
Yes.
Board Member McChrystal?
Yes.
Board Member Moser?
Yes.
Chair Campenny?
Yes,
And Board Member Noble?
Yes.
okay, passes 6-0. All right, mural matching grant agreement between the CRA and the property owner of 728 Southwest Federal Highway, resolution number 06-2024 CRA, a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the board to execute an agreement between the Stuart Community Redevelopment Agency and Brixmore IA Downtown Publics LLC, who is the property owner, for a mural matching grant in the amount of $3,000 to install murals on exterior walls of the building in Highway,
Southwest Federal
yeah,
Highway?
providing an effective date, providing for conditions of approval, and for other purposes. Pennell.
Okay, so this is related to the downtown Publix murals. The applicant is requesting a matching grant. We provide a matching grant of up to $3,000 for this type of project. The total cost of this project is $15,000, so the applicant is contributing $12,000, and they've asked that we pay directly to the artist. So it's not that Publix is interested in getting the grant, but it's for the artist. So the agreement has details about the terms and conditions of the grant, and its staff is just looking for recommendation to the CRA to approve resolution number 06-2024 to award the grant award in the amount of $3,000 for the murals.
Okay, any questions for Pennell? Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mark, seconded by Frank, to recommend approval of this resolution to the CRA for $3,000. Is there any other comment? Any public comment? Okay, please call the roll.
Board Member Noble?
Yes.
Chair Campenny?
Yes,
Vice Chair Brackbill?
Yes.
Board Member Hawkins?
Yes.
Board Member Moser?
Yes.
And Board Member McChrystal?
Yes.
okay, passes 6-0. Thank you. All right, going on to item 9, minor urban code conditional use, mural on the Dehan Building located at 11 Southeast Osceola Street. Resolution number 03-2024 CRB, a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Board of the City of Stuart, Florida, granting a minor conditional use approval for the public artwork named Old Colorado Inn, then and now on the property located at 11 Southeast Osceola Street as described within the attached legal description, granting approval to paint a mural on the exterior northern wall of a building, providing an effective date, providing for conditions of approval, and for other purposes. Pennell.
Thank you. So we have another grant application, or another mural application for Colorado Inn Then and Now. That's the name of the mural on the Dehan Building. As you can see here, the building is in the downtown core by the Haney Creek Circle, right across from Duffy's. The property address is 11 Southeast Osceola Street. Again, we have a nice big blank wall on the north side of the building that's clearly visible as you're driving or walking on Colorado Avenue. The artist is proposing a mural called Old Colorado Inn, Then and Now. It will feature the historic Colorado Hotel building as it appeared in 1920s and how it appears today. The artwork will be painted by our local artist, Christopher Vitelli, who's also done artwork on the same building, and he completed a mural named House of Refuge at Sunrise mural on the eastern wall of the same building, and it's visible from Osceola Street. The Art Council reviewed this proposal and provided a letter of support and recommended approval of this mural. However, Nancy did point out that the code requires that the mural does not have any advertisement. The rendering does show some reference to the commercial name of the business, and she thinks it could be minimized. However, staff believes that due to the context of the artwork and featuring the local historic landmark, that the artwork tells a story and it's not advertising or promoting a business, and that's not the intent of the artwork. Mr. Vitale and Christopher can explain that further. And so today, staff is requesting approval of resolution number 03-2024, approving the proposed mural with conditions attached to the resolution.
Do you want to bring back up the mural while
Yeah.
we discuss it? Okay. Do you want to add anything?
Good afternoon, Stephen Vitale. I'm the manager of the entity that owns the building, and this is my son Christopher, who will be painting
Speak
the
into the
mural.
mic, I can't even hear you.
Stephen Vitale, and my son Christopher, who will be painting the mural. And we thought it would be fun, since people coming from the boardwalk walk the sidewalk, and right now it's just, there's nothing to look at. And they've just passed these two historic buildings. The building on the corner of Colorado and Seminole, located at 201 Colorado, is the original Coventry Hotel, which was built in 1914. It was the first brick building in the city. And now we call it Old Colorado Inn, and there's an adjacent building located at 211 Colorado Inn that's part of the, what I'll call boutique hotel. And it's combined with this porch to kind of make it one building almost. But historically, it didn't have that combining porch. So we thought it would be fun. We have some old photos that show the original building on the corner, and with the sign Coventry Hotel on the top of it, and an old 1920s car. And we have some of those photos up in the hallway. People love to look at them. And we thought it would be fun if people have just passed our buildings, but they don't really know the history of what it was. So can we tell the history of it in one mural that shows what it was like? Here's the original, the left-hand building is a 1920s scene with the 1920s car, the original name of the hotel, which is exactly how it looked on the old photo. And then do the right-hand building, have it transition to the modern colors, and then show the right-hand building the way it looks right now. The sign in the middle, above the front door, in between the two pots, that sign is also historic. That was there when I purchased the building. And there was always a sign that said hotel when I purchased the building, right where that hotel sign is too. We did add the blue awnings that say OCI. So we want to keep it that way because it represents, this is what it looked like in 1920s on the left-hand side, and it transitions to exactly how it looks now. And we want to keep it exactly the way it is if you are willing to approve it.
Is there any questions for Mr. Vitale?
Yes. So the car is from the 20s when it was built, is that right, Iz?
So the color, I'll let Christopher talk about this, but we wanted to keep the left-hand side,
Right.
the feeling of this is the historic side of the mural, and that's why that doesn't have color. We did that
Right.
in a black and white. You want to explain that?
Yeah, so we had a few different options of designing this. So, obviously we could have done it the way it looks today, with kind of the modern color scheme and the way it has the porch connecting it. Or the flip side was doing just the historic buildings the way they originally looked. But we ended up settling on doing a then and now sort of past and present things. We kind of wanted to bridge, Stewart today and Stewart as it was in the past, and kind of show one artwork that, shows both sides of our history. So, yeah, the way that I decided to design it was to have on the left side, have it kind of look almost like an old photograph in the black and white, with the old car out front and everything, and a couple, those kind of landmarks to help identify the historic side of the art, and then have it transition into the full color, rendering for what it will look like for the building as it appears today. So yeah, that's kind of the way that we mutually decided to design it. And yeah, as far as the lettering and everything, like my dad was saying, the Colorado sign and the hotel, those are both, they've always been there as far as we know. The awning on the right side is that one we added. I mean, you know, if that is an issue, we're willing to, you know,
Yes.
do whatever needs to be done.
It's
So.
pretty cool. I mean, it's unique because it's a mural of buildings on a building.
Right.
And where's the Tesla in front of the new building?
You can have my MGB, I'll put that out there, as long as you show the gator bumper.
Guys. Any other questions for the artist or the applicant? See, none. I only have one for Pennell, and I just want to raise this. We already paid for a mural on this building. There's nothing wrong with doing it on another side. There's nothing in our code that says you can't do another side, that it's
Right.
a blank wall.
We don't have any limited numbers of murals you could do on a building.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
I'll just make one comment.
Sure.
I think it's really great, too, that we've got a local artist. And I commend you, Chris, for the one you did, and I think it's great that we're developing local artists who can do this kind of thing, so.
Okay, we have a motion by Bonnie, seconded by Mark. Call the roll?
Chair Campenny?
Yes.
Vice Chair Breckbill?
Yes.
Board Member Hawkins?
Yes.
Board Member McChrystal?
Yes.
Board Member Moser? Yes. And Board Member Noble?
Yes.
Passes 6-0. And going to our last item of the...
Thanks.
Wait, you want the money, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Nah.
Resolution number 07-2024 CRA, a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the board chair to execute an agreement between the Stuart Community Redevelopment Agency and Stephen Vitale, who is the property owner for a mural matching grant in the amount of $3,000 to install a mural on the exterior northern wall of a building located at 11 Osceola Street, providing an effective date, providing for conditions of approval, and for other purposes. Pennell.
Again, the applicant has applied for a mural matching grant. The total cost of the project is $7,000, so they qualify up to $3,000 for the grant program. So the applicant is eligible to receive the grant, and the complete agreement is attached to your agenda item. And staff is just requesting approval of resolution number 07-2024 to award the grant in the amount of $3,000 for the mural.
Okay. Any questions? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mark, seconded by Andy. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any public comment? Then please call the roll.
Board Member Noble?
Yes.
Vice Chair Breckbill?
Yes.
Chair Campenny?
Yes.
Board Member McChrystal?
Yes.
Board Member Hawkins?
Yes.
And Board Member Moser? Yes.
Okay, passes unanimously 6-0. Do we have anything else from staff?
I don't have anything.
Seeing none,
Motion to adjourn.
so moved and seconded by Andy. We're adjourned.